Hello, this is the first part of a set of tutorials to cover what I'm calling Operation Candyland, which is a DCS dynamic mission that I created a little bit over a year ago for me to just personally play. I found that when I would go online to different multiplayer servers, I really wasn't pleased with how every time the server would restart, it kind of restarted everything. And there's just really never a point to doing anything. Like, you fly around and you bomb stuff and you kill it, and then the server resets and you just have to kill the same stuff over again. So I set about creating a mission locally that would just be a dynamic mission that I can play, basically single player. And so I built an infrastructure to support saving where all the AI units are, what they've captured, how much fuel they've expended, etc. And then that survives a restart. And recently, I wanted to take this online and kind of share it with the community. So this will be a starting of a series as I alpha test making this a multiplayer server. So just to give a little background about what the storyline is, as you can see, we have here a map of the Caucasus and Russia and the Black Sea, which is where the default map in DCS takes place. And the concept that I was going for here was that more or less Russian and American forces kind of in this, let's see if I can get this to draw correctly, kind of in this area here, we're basically going at it with, you know, different series of puppet regimes, etc. There's a lot of internal strife going on in these different countries and states of Russia, and more or less there was just a complete collapse of the government and any armed forces within this entire area. And so basically where the game is starting is we have kind of two endpoints on either side of the map, which is going to be here, which is where Anapa is, and more or less over here where Vyazyany is, the two airports. And so the US forces, blue forces, are basically going to start here, and red forces will start on this end here. So the way that the game starts is when the server first loads, cargo planes are being dispatched by US forces, more or less from the Mediterranean, kind of skirting Iraq, coming up through Turkey, and then flying in. For Russia, they're just kind of coming in basically anywhere from Russia and are kind of entering in this way. So what happens at first is cargo flights are landing. So cargo planes are flying in, they land at the US base, cargo flights are flying in for Russia, land at the red base. When the cargo planes land, they are converted into units. So I will just close this and we'll kind of zoom in here. And so this is a server that's been running for a little bit now. But basically, US cargo planes, as we see, there's one landing right now actually. So what will happen is this plane, this cargo flight that again has come in from the south in the US's case, and so as we could see, there's a kind of a track of different flights coming in from the south right now. They will land, currently, you know, to start the mission off, they'll land at Vyazyany. And then once this plane parks, it's going to convert into a unit. And so as we can see, one flight's already converted into a Patriot site, and kind of the key to this is units will keep being spawned here, but nothing is allowed to move until a commander spawns. So the whole game is based on this idea of a commander can tell units to do stuff. And so when a commander spawns, that will basically tell all these units to wake up. It'll tell any airplanes that have landed at the base to take off and fly a mission, and it will also start to build defenses. When it builds its first defense, the command group will actually move, or a portion of the command group will actually move into the unit. So in this case, a house was built. And now this is the local commander for Vaziani. So flights can take off and land, etc. So kind of another key point here is that along with cargo planes coming in, there's different flights of fighter and different types of support aircraft that are flying in. So as those planes are landing in, they just go into storage until a commander appears. Once a commander does appear, then flights will start to take off. So like this F-16 right now is getting ready to take off. Now once the commander creates a building, if you will, an emplacement, that commander will now drive away and tell any units here to basically go with him. So then the whole map splits into this idea of theaters. So there's a north theater and a south theater. So Tbilisi is the US's first north theater base. So they will basically drive here, or they will drive to their south first theater base, which is Sagaland Lug. I don't know how to pronounce that, but close enough. And they will first kind of post up outside of it. And so we can see here, there's the command group. So more than likely this is the command group that first started out at Vaziani and then moved forward. And so now they're basically set up here, and before that they'll go in to take this location, they need someone to either go scout it or to go fight for it. Now in the case of the early game, Tbilisi would not be held by anyone else, so a scout could drive around and basically quote-unquote scout it out and see that there's no enemies here, which would then tell the commander it could come in here and basically take over this, and now any flights that have landed here, etc., can start taking off. Cargo planes will start landing here, spawning units, etc. Same for down here. And then once an area is taken, it just kind of rinse and repeat. So basically the name of the game is the US is trying to move forward and take all the airports, and everything in the north is considered the northern theater, and take everything in the south, and everything in the south is considered the southern theater. And the US is basically just trying to get all the way to Annapolis doorstep and snuff out the Russian team in a basically a land grab, a lily pad land grab scenario. Going the other way, obviously Russia is trying to take the southern and northern theaters and fight their way down as well. Along with airports, there are also cities, bridges, etc. That need to be taken as well, and those are kind of defined areas. So for example, one of those is Gori. So in order for Gori to be captured, it's the same idea. Either a US scout unit has to come here and see that there's no enemies, in which case it will capture it as friendly, or if there are enemies detected here, a bunch of basically fighting units need to gather outside of the location, wait for a commander to come. The commander will give the okay to attack. They will go through this area, attack, and once it is free from enemy forces, they will claim it as a friendly area and then continue to move on. In this case, they've gotten here, and since we're in the early going, there's no enemies here, and so they just kind of keep on going. And so if we kind of follow this train right now, we see that there are scout units that have gotten all the way down, or close to, this scout unit has gone from Gori down to Batumi, up to Kobaleti, and is now on its way to Kutaisi. So as far as the US southern theater is concerned, starting at Vaziani, all southern airports, so Sog, Gori, Kashuri, which is a city, Batumi, Kobaleti Airport, and now Kutaisi, well, soon to be Kutaisi, could be all considered friendly coalition friendly to the U.S. coalition. So here's a scout unit. These are just fast-moving scouts that are driving around the map, whose job it is to just basically go to these areas and see if there's an enemy, and if not, claim it as friendly. And then that means that friendly cargo planes and friendly fighters and support aircraft can land there, and it becomes a new base of operation. Same in the north. It seems that the U.S. forces have not yet, or are just finally deciding to send units north. And again, the commander is deciding where to send whom at any given moment, but basically everything has to be fought in order. So to kind of give an example of that a little bit, let me just grab a screen cap here and just kind of use my pen on it. So more or less, the U.S. Forces are going to, if I could find my cursor here, I'm going to basically go like this and then try to get to Beslan. There's a couple cities too that need to be taken along the way, and then once they're finished with that, they will go to Mozdok, Nelchik, Minerali, and then actually they go up like this and then kind of fight that way. And in the south, the units, as we've already seen, are kind of going like this: Batumi, Kobaleti, Kutaisi, Senaki. Zugdidi is a city that they have to fight for, Sukumi, Gudada, etc. So, as that's going on, of course, though, there are aircraft taking off once an airport is commanded. And so in this case, they take off and they start doing missions. So in this case, the A-10 has taken off. And just based on its loadout, we could tell it's on some type of CAS or ground strike or pinpoint strike mission. So what this may be doing right now, and without looking at like kind of the back end, it's a little bit hard to say exactly what it's up to, but it may be flying a CAS mission over Kashuri just to make sure that there's no enemies here. It may be flying to Kutaisi to just kind of do a visual scan to see if there's anybody there before the scout gets there. Could be doing anything like that at Kubaleti or Batumi. Could even be flying out for an anti-ship strike out in the Black Sea. That's another important point. So again, let me just kind of pen this up a little bit. So carriers and ships are also part of the battle space as well. So something that's not modeled on the map in DCS, but is actually here, is there is the connection to the Mediterranean right here. And so basically we're simulating that the US Navy comes in from this location, and then basically we'll sail to about here, and then decides what to do. So it can either go on patrol. Let me keep losing my pen. There we are. So it could go on a patrol. So basically it will kind of do a kind of thing like this. Or it can just from here go to like any point along here and just look for any enemy naval activity. Or if it's a transport, it can go to any city that has a dock. And so Batumi, for example, has a dock. There's one around Sochi. There's one in Tups, or Tuaps, which is around there. And then there's a couple in this location too. So if it's a naval transport ship, it'll basically land or dock at a location, and the air transports are only able to fly in light armor. So Hummers, APCs, LAVs, etc. Basically anything that in real life is transported by air. We're kind of simulating that here. For heavier units like Abrams, Bradleys, etc., artillery pieces, heavy artillery pieces, they need to be brought in by ship. So ship will come in, spawn at a dock, and then basically start letting off units. And those units will just pick it up. An important thing to know then is this means that since everything is basically locked into its theater, heavy armor will only operate here. You won't see heavy armor in the north. So the north is very much going to be air-based infantry, airborne type of units that are fighting for those areas. The south is going to be much more artillery, tank, heavy unit-based fighting, assuming that transports are able to get in. For Russia, so there's actually I believe a pretty major Russian naval base here, but as part of this mission, we're kind of saying that they basically pulled back and out of this area, and we're going to simulate that. Another major Russian naval base that's up here. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but there is one in this general vicinity, and so this is basically the route that the Russian Navy takes. Comes through here, gets to about here, and then makes its same decision point and is deciding, should it go to a dock, or should it basically follow the same kind of pathway just to see what's going on in the area. Additionally, there's one other type of mission that ships can do, which is basically coastal support. And so basically you'll have a ship that will sail about here, and then any targets or any fighting that's going on, it will hit coastal locations. And so in the case of like a Ticonderoga, those could be cruise missile strikes. In terms of Russian assets, that could just be bombardment from the ship's guns. So that is kind of a quick overview of what is going on. So units are just constantly moving around the map, etc. The thing that makes this, I think, more special, though, from a gameplay perspective, is the fact that the Russian and American AI assets, basically everything is being saved. So, for instance, right now there's this Su-23. It's out flying, it's doing some mission. I can tell you by the N in its name here that it's a flight that took off from the carrier. So that would say that this here is a Russian carrier group. Most likely this is a patrol group, just out for patrol right now, and it's spawning flights. So 2 flights have taken off from there. Looks to me like this is probably just doing a fighter sweep right now. And I'm going to guess this is his twin. Yep. And he's more or less doing the same thing, just doing a fighter sweep. So just kind of a low-level flight. And again, it's a little bit randomized, like they could be doing all types of different things. But the cool thing will be if we restart the server right now, these 2 planes will spawn in this exact location, and will continue on with whatever they were doing. So if they were on their way to go attack a target, the restart will not change that. The server restart will allow them to continue to pursue that target. If they were going to a refueling plane, they will spawn back in with the same amount of fuel as they were in before the restart, go refuel, etc. If they were going for a landing, getting ready to take off, basically almost everything is captured in a snapshot, and then the server is reset just to kind of save on server resources, and then is restarted, and they pick it up right back where they left off. So the cool thing for me, and the way that I've been playing this, is I can, from a single player standpoint, start the game up, picks up from wherever I left it. I do a mission. So one of the planes that I've actually really enjoy flying in DCS is the Su-25T. So more or less I would take off from here, maybe go do an anti-ship strike, maybe go do a seed strike, and of course as these units disperse and get further down, they're just creating more and more conflict as they go. So this is very early on right now. There's a huge vacuum between the forces. So more or less right now the only thing that's going to be fighting each other is the occasional fighter sweep that might be going out ahead. But most of the transport planes are still going to be landing behind the front lines. Same for the Russian team. Where we'll start to see conflict is when ground forces start to meet up. And so then the cool part about that is, I could take off an Su-25T, go bomb U.S. Ground forces, fly back, save the game, or basically exit the game, not play for a day or two, come back, and everything picks up right where I left off. The units that I killed are dead, so that has an impact on force projection for the U.S. If I'm helping to support the advance of Russian troops, that just makes it all the much better for them as I'm clearing stuff out of their way. And so this way I'm kind of contributing to the ever-evolving mission. So now what I've spent the past couple months doing is kind of refactoring some of the code to make it available for online play. And so I haven't done an online server before in DCS, so it's kind of new territory for me. But I will need to kind of stress test this and see, like, how many units can we have, how many different functions can we be doing, can we save stuff, etc. In the early going, there won't be the state of a human player will not be saved. It'll just be the state of the AI players. So if as a human you take off and you fly, and then the server restarts with you at 30,000 feet in the middle of the map, when the server restarts, your flight won't still be there. But if a airport is taken, U.S. forces, U.S. human-controlled forces will move up to a closer airport based on that same or Russian forces would take a step back, or vice versa. So that's kind of the long and short overview. And so this mission has been running for not quite a day yet. Actually, so kind of another cool thing in this is that the time here in the game, so here we see we're at day 1, it's at 2100 hours. So the start time for this was 8 in the morning. Now it's 9 p.m. So this has been running for 13 hours. The server resets every 4 hours, but restarts at the time that the server ended. So basically, each real day is going to move forward. I'm not quite sure yet if the game code will know to increment the day forward once we get to a new hour. My guess is it's not going to know that, but that could just be some simple code that I'll take care of. But more or less, the cool thing will be is as this goes online and plays itself out, when you come back in, it may be day 7, day 10, day 15. And some of the missions that I've played just single player have gone on for more than a month. Sometimes much longer than that, just depending on kind of the randomness of, what units are dropped off and what the commanders decide to do, and just kind of like, the clunky things that the AI and DCS will do as well. So that is kind of the intro to this whole thing and what the point will be. So I'm currently learning to fly the F-16 module, which I purchased back before it was even released, but I was kind of so busy working on the code for this and stuff that I didn't have a chance to learn it. So I flew, when this mission started, I flew in the first hour. I did a 2-hour mission where I took off from Vaziani, basically flew all the way to Anapa. I think that's right, Anapa, right? Yeah, to Anapa. And basically I was just plucking off flights that were coming into land. So I took out one IL-76 transport and 2 Su-25s. And so basically those are just off the list now for the Russian forces. So who knows what unit could have landed here and been useful to them. That got killed in the flight crashing, and the 2 Su-25s also died as well. And then I flew back and landed back at Vaziani. So I'll be flying a second mission at some point today. I might be playing this from both sides right now, but my intention is when this goes live as a multiplayer session that it will start as a PvE server, just to kind of test workload on it. And so I'll be looking to get some help from some beta testers maybe to just kind of log on with me and play. I'm not quite sure yet how many humans can be on this at once. I mean, right now there's very little units, back when I would play the single player, there really wasn't an idea of a unit cap. So sometimes there would be hundreds of groups, and within groups could be up to 5 units. So there were maybe 1,000 ground units on the map at once, and even that would kind of tax my machine at the time. For multiplayer, I've dialed it down quite a bit and changed the rules a little bit. So the bases used to be a lot more hunkered down and well defended, so I'm kind of giving up on that to allow the units to move forward. There's still some clunky functionality, like sometimes these intermediary air bases are right now neutral, and so the AI will think that it can land there, but the flight won't take back off, of course, because there's no commander there. So there's little things that still need to be fixed, but generally speaking, everything is working pretty good right now. So I will be doing a series flying flights across this. There may be bugs as time goes on, and I'll just kind of drop out and fix those and get the server back up. But my intention is to hopefully leave the server just running all the time, and I will be naming the server in such a way where people can find it. So that's basically the starting point of this, and there'll be more to come, and more tutorials, and more just talking about like how things are working. Right now I'm keeping all the units on just so we can see what's going on, but as time goes on and as the real server comes out, it will probably be that there'll be a fog of war, that you'll understand where friendly units are, but this will encourage American choppers to go on recon units. Humans can go on recon units, etc. Allied flights will go on recon, and then there's not a very good messaging system built out yet to tell players what exactly is going on. So again, just having everything visible will allow you to kind of log in and see what's going on and choose to do something. But eventually there'll be a messaging system that can tell you, hey, the battle right now is at Gudada, ground support and cap flights are needed there. And so my plan is to include a very robust directions system on what to do. So I will kind of wrap it up there, and this will become a YouTube video as well that can be referred back to. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks. George Whitner.